Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is Mark Salter from CFA Society Minnesota, welcoming you to our latest webinar, Conducting Premium Virtual Meetings. We are really thrilled today to have Brendan Barca with us. Brendan is a business coach and LinkedIn consultant and specializes in helping people in this industry, helping financial advisors leverage technology to build their business. He does a lot of his stuff, as you might guess, remotely, and we're going to let him tell us, if he dares, where he's at today, joining us. But before we turn it over to him, I'm going to flip forward 2 more slides. First of all, to thank our annual sponsors, the firms that you see on the screen in front of you. We can't do things like this without their support, and we much appreciate their generosity every year, not just financially, but also with thought leadership, like today's session, which comes to us thanks to our good friends at John Hancock Investment Management. So again, we can't do this stuff without them, and we really appreciate their support. Finally, last but not least, we want to thank our good friends at CFA Institute for giving us a Zoom meetings license this year so that we can continue to provide outstanding professional learning opportunities like this, even in the middle of a global pandemic. So much appreciate their support every year as well. I am going to stop sharing my screen and ask Brendan to take it away and help us all get better at doing these virtual meetings that we are now doing a lot these days. So Brendan, thank you very much. Take it away, sir.
Thanks so much, Mark, for that kind introduction, and welcome everyone to this afternoon's segments on how to grow your business by conducting premium virtual meetings. Where over the course of the next 30 minutes or so, we'll talk about some advanced strategies you can use to run virtual meetings and virtual seminars to help you grow your business as an investment professional. This presentation is for anyone who's in the investments industry, whether you are an analyst or an advisor or an investment consultant or even a portfolio manager. As we all see here today, we are in a virtual world, and I think that even beyond 2021, we're going to have to continue doing things remotely on Zoom, much like you're seeing here today. As Mark mentioned, my name is Brendan Barca. I am a coach, a consultant, and a speaker. But to give you some more of my background, I actually started out my career within the financial services industry once upon a time as a hybrid wholesaler. I say this to let you know that I have a deep understanding of the industry and have worked a lot with people like yourself throughout the course of my career. But for the last 3.5 years, I have gone out on my own and have worked completely remotely to build my business by using tools such as LinkedIn, Zoom, WebEx, and others. And now I'm really lucky to be able to educate advisors and other investment professionals who are now trying to do the same. So I'm excited to give you today's content, which is really a compilation of both my own knowledge, but also things we picked up from other advisors and other investment professionals in the industry. For the format today, we'll be going through the slides that you see in front of you. We'll also make sure there's time at the end for questions. So if you do have questions, please type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom panel, and then you can ask those there, and I'll make sure to answer those in our live session today. Then lastly, for the goal and resources you'll get from today's session, our goal here today is to be able to give you some advanced strategies that you can use in your business to be able to enhance your client and prospect experience that you're giving virtually, and also to give you some great take-home resources which you can use to implement these ideas moving forward. We'll go through those resources in detail here today. So with that, let's dive into our content. Want to first set the stage as to why it's important for investment professionals to master virtual meetings. Here's point number 1, is that client expectations are changing. Here's a quote from Broadridge Financial Solutions from back in 2018. Investment professionals must ensure that they can communicate through smartphones, telepresence, webinars, and online chats, all of which are set to grow substantially over the next 5 years. As you can see, this quote is from 2018, and as you can imagine, in 2020, due to the pandemic, this has really only been accelerated. Simply put, if you're an investment professional today and you're not up on smartphones or virtual seminars or Zoom meetings, then you're going to fall behind from what your clients expect from you. It doesn't matter who's on the other end of that table or the other end of that computer screen. You have to adapt to this type of technology. But of course, about a year into the pandemic now, you all have accepted the fact that Zoom is critical for today. But now let's talk about why it's important for both group meetings as well as individual meetings. Well, Zoom meetings and the Zoom platform allows you to touch a broader client base than ever before. And here are some important points to remember about how Zoom can help you reach more prospects and clients. Zoom and other technologies like it, whether it's WebEx or GoToMeetings, allow you to both be able to consistently and efficiently touch your prospects and clients no matter where they live. Mark alluded to this earlier, but I'm actually broadcasting to you from Costa Rica. So it no longer matters where you are physically. If you want to get in front of prospects, clients, or other business partners, you will be able to do that with a Zoom technology. And one investment professional even acknowledges that they were able to touch clients across the country, whether they're in New Jersey, California, or New York, all in one call, which was never possible before the pandemic. Everything had to be done, in most cases, in your old community there in Minnesota. But of course, those of you are probably aware that virtual seminars are also a critical part of your business. So now let's talk about some different ways to help you to grow your business virtually and to run more premium meetings for your clients and prospects. Here are 3 things we'll cover today. Number 1, we will talk about how to master one-on-one virtual meetings by giving an agenda used by a top investment professional. Number 2, we'll then go over how to conduct successful virtual seminars, which are going to be great group meetings for your clients and for your prospects. And then third, we'll talk about some next steps of how to review your checklist that we'll give you today and how to put all these lessons into practice. So with that, let's go into step number 1, which is all about virtual meeting agenda used by a top investment professional. I mean, whether you are running a meeting with a client or prospect, using an agenda is still going to be a best practice in your meeting. It doesn't matter if it's through the computer, you can still have a great virtual meeting agenda set up for your clients, which we can walk through here today. So here are 4 tips you want to be using when it comes to creating a sample agenda. Now, this was actually designed for financial advisors. However, this can be applicable no matter what your investment profession is, whether you're a portfolio manager, an analyst, or something else. You can kind of shift these questions depending on your own situation and who your clients and prospects are. But let's go through the sample agenda now. Point number 1, you want to ask your client what's top of mind for them and their family. With everything going on right now with the pandemic and with the new president, you want to understand what your clients are concerned about. So this is going to be a great way for you to set the stage in the meeting and a great question for you to ask. Number 2, you also want to understand what the financial goals of your client are, especially if you are in a client-facing role. This is going to be a great way to be able to point your virtual meeting agenda. Then part number 3, you also want to highlight the online resources available to your client or prospect. With our virtual world these days, it's never been a better opportunity to take your clients to your website or to a portfolio tool that you can show them and be able to showcase that through your computer screen. And then number 4 of the agenda is next steps, next meeting. So being able to bridge from this virtual meeting to the next one is going to be a great thing that you can do to be able to continue the virtual meeting sales cycle. Now, with this sample agenda in mind, let's talk about how to personalize your agenda for each client. Here is one example of what you want to do. In using a Word document or a PDF, you want to be able to add your logo, you want to be able to add your name, add your client's name, and you'll see the meeting agenda there right below it. So let me show you actually one of the resources you're going to get after today's session that's going to allow you to be able to use something like this going forward in your practice. Now, yes, at the top here, this does say virtual meeting advisor template, but you could use the same type of template no matter what your profession is. If you're an analyst or a PM, you could kind of just change this and use the same sort of format. What you can do here is you can add your client's name here at the top, as we've done. You can add your name and also your firm name there below. And then you want to have a meeting agenda there right below it. And what you can do with this agenda is you're going to be able to fill in different answers to your client's questions. And it's going to be a workable agenda, which you can use to better navigate the conversation and create a more premium experience for your clients so they can react to the different points that you make. So if you don't already use something like this, whether it's a Word document or a PDF or something in your internal system, you definitely want to be integrating this into your virtual meeting process. So we'll come back to this throughout today's presentation. But now with that in mind, let's dive into the 4 main parts of this agenda and talk through how you could use these in your virtual meeting conversations. So point number 1, what's top of mind for you and your family? As you ask your clients and prospects this question, this is going to enable you to do a few things, and it's going to enable you to use strategies that many top investment professionals are using, 2 strategies which are outlined here on the screen. Point number one is demonstrating your listening skills by taking notes virtually. As alluded to earlier, it's not going to be enough in the virtual world to sit there and nod your head to show that you're listening. Instead, it's critical to be able to showcase your listening skills by typing in the answers to your clients' questions. This gives them something to react off of and creates a more dynamic conversation for you and the client. And the second thing you want to do is help to keep market conditions in perspective with visuals and annotations. Whether you're using WebEx or Zoom or GoToMeeting or Teams, they're going to have technology that's going to allow you to screen share or allow you to create a virtual whiteboard, which you can then use to do different demonstrations to help them to understand the stock market and anything else you're trying to explain from an investment perspective. So how do we take notes virtually by using our listening skills? So going back to our agenda here, as you ask your client or prospect this type of question, what you want to do is just start typing in the answers to those questions. So for example, if they explain that they're worried about how the new president could impact their portfolio, you can type that into the line here. Or maybe they're worried about the stock market and how last year was great, but maybe this year will start to dip down. Or finally, just simply worried about their 401k plan if they are on track to reach their goals. As you type in these answers to the question, it's going to give them something to react off of and help you to build off this conversation going forward and create a better conversation for you and your client because it's going to be captured here through the screen sharing. And the great thing is about this agenda is that now that we've outlined the different things that your client cares about, you can now take these and pivot to something on your website or a third-party tool and demonstrate how these types of things aren't something to be worried about or how you can walk them through their 401k plan or the stock market. So using a workable agenda like this is going to help you to pivot better and also create a better learning experience for those clients. And then once you've typed in those answers to the questions, what you want to do is help to keep those market conditions in perspective with visuals and annotations. You see this gentleman in the picture here at the bottom of your screen. He's in person putting up some things on a whiteboard. So if you were a big whiteboard person previously, before the pandemic started, you can do the same type of experience no matter which virtual meeting software you're using. For example, here on Zoom, I could just pull up a whiteboard, and I'm going to try to do this right now. So you should be able to see a white screen. And once you're on the whiteboard, you'll be able to draw any sort of graphics for your clients. So very simply, let's say that you want to draw the stock market and you just want to show them a brief demonstration. You could draw a stock market and talk about how the portfolio that your client handles has changed from, say, 1995 to today in 2021. And by doing these different client demonstrations and explaining to your client that, back in that time period, they had hired you and you had over 1.4 million in the portfolio, and today it's grown to be over 4.5. This is going to allow them to see, despite how the stock market is, despite how the new president may affect their portfolio, you as their advisor or as their analyst or as their investment professional have helped them to grow their portfolio. Now, this is just one example, a very simple example that advisors have used across the country, but the idea is the same no matter what your position is in the investment space. You can use a whiteboard like the one I'm using here today to be able to better articulate a story and really just take any in-person whiteboard examples you used to do and do it through the computer. But before you go on a whiteboard and do it live with a client or prospect, make sure you practice, because although what I just did might look easy, it actually takes some getting used to. So make sure you practice with a friend or a team member before you go live with a client. All right, so now let's go back to our presentation. So we've showed you how to use the whiteboard, how to help to keep your clients' market conditions in perspective by taking notes virtually. Now let's move into part 2 of this agenda that many investment professionals are using, and that is giving your clients a financial goals update. So whether you are an analyst or whether you are a client-facing financial advisor, this could be a great part of your agenda, and there are 2 main strategies that you want to be able to highlight. Number 1 is using the virtual agenda to highlight the client's goals, which we'll show in a moment. And then number 2, screen sharing, like I'm doing right now, to be able to showcase a financial goal software or something similar and use annotations, in other words, drawing on the screen to highlight different parts of the demonstration. So first, how do we use the virtual agenda to highlight our clients' goals? To do that, we're going to want to go back to our agenda. And you'll see here in our workable agenda, before the meeting even begins, we want to have different points in this agenda already filled out. In this case, let's say that we have an individual client who's trying to build their wealth with us as an advisor. Here are 3 things that they may have signed up for us to be able to accomplish as their financial goals. A, retiring by 2025 with $2 million, B, sending their grandkids to college by 2022, and C, paying off their mortgage of their second home by 2027. And what you can do is you can showcase your clients, what we've done here is we have set these goals for us back when we started working together 10 years ago. And the great news is for you is we are right on track for these goals. So this is a great way to, again, virtually show your clients all the things that they hired you for. And then what you can do with these as well is you can pivot into your software to demonstrate with different charts and different investment portfolios how they are on track for these different items. So let's actually go in and demonstrate how you could do that through the virtual meeting. You can see here on the screen that there is a woman showcasing some different financial charts here on the computer. And the great thing is with Zoom or WebEx or any software that is just like it, you'll be able to use your annotation to be able to draw on the screen. So I'm going to use the annotation marker from PowerPoint, but the same annotation can actually be done through Zoom. It's going to be right near the screen sharing option on your Zoom, and same thing on WebEx. But what you can do and walk clients through their portfolio, walk them through an update, is simply draw on the screen. So you can see here, Mr. and Mrs. Client, we are right on track for your financial goals. We are also perfectly diversified based on your goals for sending your kids to college. And we're also on track to be able to save for the mortgage for that second home. The idea here, and that's just one example, is to be able to take those busy charts which show up on a financial website and be able to boil them down into the parts that are important for your clients or prospects. And that annotation feature is available through all the different virtual meeting softwares, and you can use that as a powerful way to draw your clients or prospects' attention to a certain area, just like we showcased on this screen. But just like I said with the whiteboard, you do want to practice with these before you go live because they can be a little bit finicky. If people have questions about how to use the Zoom one, I can showcase that at the end, but I wanted to keep this agnostic to all the different platforms because you can do the same thing with WebEx, Zoom, and all the rest. All right, now let's move on to the third part of the agenda, which is online resources available to your client. One of the great things about the virtual world is being on your computer for every meeting is a great way to showcase all the different tools they have available and all the technologies. And there are two main strategies that many investment professionals are leveraging to be able to showcase this better in meetings. One thing is they're showcasing the power and tools available to the client, all the different things through your website. And two, they're also walking their client through the online tools, but doing it through the client screen. So that's a big difference that you can really use to take your premium meetings to the next level, is instead of just walking your clients through your own screen share, you can teach them how to screen share on their end, and then they can go through into your website, into their account, and be able to learn how to do all the things that you want to show them. So that's a big thing that you can do in this step to be able to uncover new ways to be able to add value to your prospects and clients. So just like we did before, one of the great things you could do in this meeting or in your meeting with your client is you're going to be able to use your workable agenda, which we were showcasing earlier, and demonstrate all the different online resources available to the client. So these are some online resources your typical advisor might have. Depending on your own position, you may have different resources available to your clients or prospects, but the ideas will relate in the end. So three things that you may have available to showcase is your firm's website, maybe a college savings tool, and maybe a financial goals planning software. You can remind your client of all the different resources they have and then ask them what they want to learn more about today. And if they want to learn more about the financial goals planning software, for example, what you can do is have that open up on your screen and ask them to open up on their screen and then walk them through how to use the technology. So this is how you want to do that. You want to be able to first show on your screen, this is the financial goals software that you have, much like this gentleman has here in the iPad. But then if your client is curious or if they want to learn more hands-on, you can ask them if they want to be able to learn how to do it on their end, to be able to go in to see all their account information. And that's when you give them the power to share their screen and walk them through how to use Zoom or WebEx technology in that same moment. And the pro tip here is you can also annotate, just like we did in the last slide, on your client's screen. So if they're walking in and they see their portfolio and you want to circle something, you can do that by using virtual meeting technology. It's going to be a great way to be able to point your clients in the right direction and make their portfolio or make their screen come alive through the screen sharing process. So this is a big thing that many investment professionals are not taking advantage of. If you're not already allowing your clients to navigate in your website and be able to highlight things for them with annotations, you can use that to take your virtual meetings up a notch. All right, now let's move into step 4 of this meeting before we transition into virtual seminars and talk about how to bridge to next steps and next meetings to continue the client sales cycle. What you want to do is you want to be able to visually demonstrate client action items and set the next meeting. And how do we do this? Well, we just want to use the virtual meeting agenda that we had showcased earlier, and one like this that you can create yourself, and be able to have some next steps that come from the meeting itself. And you'll notice here that my next steps haven't been created, and that is by design, because hopefully the next steps should happen in the meeting organically. So in this, let's say, for example, that some next steps are determined that they want to be able to share their tax return. Maybe that's one thing they can send over to you. Or maybe they also want to be able to share their mortgage statements. That's another thing you can add on here as well, that they could send these different items over to you between now and the next meeting. These are great ways to create reasons for your next meetings and also to create homework to give them as a to-do after the meeting is over to create some next steps for you and your client. Now, your next steps may be different depending on your position, but again, the idea of the workable agenda is still going to resonate across the industry. And then beyond that, just establishing a next step and a next date for that meeting. So maybe perhaps it's best to meet next quarter. You can set the meeting for, April 7th, and we want to choose 2021, of course, and choose this time for the meeting and just make sure that this works for you and your client, and then create the meeting invitation as soon as you get off the call. And now this is really the end of the virtual meeting agenda that I wanted to showcase here today. The great thing about this is that you can share this with your client after the meeting, and you'll also be able to save this on your end so you have notes for the next call about what you covered in this conversation. So one big takeaway from this call today is definitely to implement something like this for your business to create a better experience for your individual clients and prospects. Okay, so that really covers how to run premium one-on-one meetings. We talked about a few things, including how to use the workable agenda, how to use the whiteboard, and how to use annotations. Now let's transition into how to run successful virtual seminars. This is another great way, just like the one we're doing here today, to get in front of a larger group of clients and prospects to grow your business. So let's go through a few best practices. I'm someone who's done over 200 virtual seminars in the last year, so I have some experience there, but also some best practices from advisors and other investment professionals who we have surveyed. So first of all, one tip about virtual seminars that we got from a top investment professional is designing virtual events based on the quality of your clients. One investment professional who we spoke with actually segments their client base into 2 main categories. One for their best clients, maybe their top 10 relationships, and then the other category for all the rest of their clients, maybe the rest of the 95% of the people who they want to work with. Now, for those top 10 relationships, what they are doing is they're offering team-only virtual meetings covering a topic of mind of the client's choice. So for example, if you are calling on a head of HR or you're calling on a wealthy individual, and what you can do is go to them and ask them, what would be a topic that you and your team or you and your family would want to learn more about? And then you can design a seminar based specifically for them. And by doing this, you don't only get in front of the client, you also get in front of their team members, their family, their friends, and other prospects all in one call. So if you have those top 10 relationships, make sure to go out with them and see what's going to be an interesting topic, and then bring that idea to them to run a personalized virtual meeting experience that's closed off to the rest of the world. And then for your second segment of people, what you want to do for the rest of 95% of your business is maybe conduct monthly virtual seminars where you ask your clients to come and attend, but also ask them to invite their team members and friends and families so you can get both clients and prospects on those recurring monthly calls. So really this two-pronged approach is going to help you to create high touches with those top clients and give them a white glove service, but then also create a more scalable approach for all the other clients. So you're touching both of them in a virtual seminar context. Now, once you've started to figure out how to segment your client base, another pro tip I want to share is one investment professional was creating what he called client coffee chats. So here's the concept. What they were doing is they were choosing a topic. So however they want to educate their clients, whether it was about 529 plans or about different mutual funds or the stock market, they would create a new topic every single month to educate their clients. And then they would host this on a recurring basis every month, and they would encourage their clients to invite friends and family to come. So it's not just clients, it's prospects coming to those meetings as well. And this has enabled them to reach clients and prospects across the entire country. And I think the most clever thing about this is the branding of the client copy chat. Many people may be getting sick of the word webinar today. So kind of having a rebrand and creating a client copy chat experience can make it sound more intimate and get more butts in the seats for your virtual events. Now, beyond that, another great way to get people interested in your events is doing more outside the box virtual seminar ideas outside of that normal investment spectrum. So here's a list of seminar ideas that we've seen be successful with other investment professionals who are trying to do special things for their clients and prospects. You'll see the topics on the left, ranging from things such as business building with LinkedIn, women's wellness, meditation, virtual cooking classes, nutrition and wine tasting, and then very importantly, on the right, how to market each topic. So it's important to be able to brand the topic that you choose to be able to encourage people to come to those events. Now, you might be sitting there and asking yourself, well, how am I going to find someone who is an expert on meditation? Well, that's where a lot of your product partners come in. So people like wholesalers and other people at John Hancock Investments or those other partners oftentimes have access to those subject matter experts. And also, of course, you can check your local community and people on LinkedIn and other social media. But it is really powerful to have these outside the box ideas because your clients are really going to get a memorable experience from things that aren't necessarily about their financial well-being, but more about their holistic well-being. So keep this in mind when it comes to doing better virtual seminars and different virtual seminars in 2021. So now we've talked about some different ways to get people to attend your events. Let's now talk about when to host these during the week and then what time of day. These are all different studies that we've looked at to be able to give you the best times to host virtual seminars like the one we're doing here today. So what time of the week do you want to host these? There are 3 days that are optimal. It's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So essentially, you want to keep it to the middle of the week, with Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday being essentially no-goes. You want to keep those to Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, with Thursday being the slight lead in terms of getting attendance for your sessions. And then in terms of what time of day, so based on a study done by GoToMeeting, which is a Zoom and WebEx competitor, what they found is that if you host seminars in the middle of the morning or the middle of the afternoon, you're going to up your attendance. So 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. local time or 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. local time are going to get you the most people to attend those events. If you think that you want to host something before markets or after markets, think again, because research shows that people aren't going to attend before or after work. Keep them to the middle of their work hours. Also, one other fun fact, at least it's fun to me, is that 60-minute seminars actually attract more people than 30-minute seminars. So you may be tempted to be able to do a shortened seminar and expect more people to come, but actually if they see an hour set off, they expect a Q&A, expect some interaction, this can actually get higher attendance than if you try to do a shortened event. So I encourage you to consider exploring 1-hour seminars, which you could do virtually. Okay, so now we've talked about when to promote. Let's talk about where to promote these virtual seminars. Based on another study that we've done, what we found is that email is still going to be your top driver in attendance for virtual seminars, getting at least 57% of attendees to events on average. But you still want to use a few other areas, including social media, websites, and your newsletter. If you have those are good other areas to sprinkle in some promotion. So if you use LinkedIn or Facebook, those are good areas to promote your virtual events. Then one top investment professional also starts to promote them through their local organizations. So one person was actually doing a lot of events with their library before the pandemic. And after the pandemic, although they couldn't do it in the library anymore, they still asked their contact there if they could promote their seminar through the library newsletter. This helped them to get attendance and also helped them to reach new people in the community. So make sure to cross promote, with email being the top driver, but also sprinkle in social media, your website, and also any local organizations like the library and Chamber of Commerce. And then how do we promote these? So what are some good templates to be able to get people into these virtual events? So here is one option for a strategy we got from a top investment professional, just a simple template they use to get people to their events. And you'll notice a few key things here. First of all, they are starting to draw some attention and draw some urgency as to why people should attend. So in this case, this was made from a financial advisor, and they're asking, are you worried about the stock market? Are you worried about volatility? If so, then you want to come join us for this event. So there's the call to action. They're also giving a high-level overview of what they can expect from the seminar. And then here are two key areas that are going to help them to reach more prospects and get more people to attend. One is they are asking if their friends and family want to attend, that they can add them into the event. And then finally, they of course are providing a registration link. So much like you may have signed up for today's event, you want to have a link directly in the email, which would allow them to register and allow you to see who registered for that event. So make sure when you're creating a promotional newsletter, it follows a similar structure. You want to create some urgency, give a call to action, make sure that people are encouraged to invite their friends, family, and team members, and then giving them a registration link. And now finally, so let's say that you run a successful virtual seminar, you've had a number of people come to your event. How do you capitalize after the group event is over? Here are three things that many top investment professionals are doing. Number one is they are sending a recap email to all attendees the day of the event. You don't want to wait a week or two later. Instead, you want to capitalize while the fire is still hot. So make sure that you are crafting up that recap email and sending it out the day of, or worst case, the next morning of the event. You'll see one pro tip here on the screen is that you can also upload a 2-minute recap video. This is one strategy we saw used by a top portfolio manager who's had great success in using virtual seminars to get in front of more people for their firm. Second thing you want to do is you also want to include a call to action at the end of your seminar. So why do we put on virtual events like this? Of course, it's to grow our business, to get in front of more clients or prospects. So you want to include 1 or 2 calls to action. One example could be to promote your next event. So if you have one next month or next quarter, you want to make sure you provide the date and time and give people an easy way to register. The other thing you can do, and a great way to get in front of more prospects, is to encourage people to sign up for a one-on-one conversation with you to go into deeper detail about the stuff that was covered. So you can provide that in the seminar and just give a brief slide on that and then tell them they can sign up for that one-on-one conversation in the follow-up email. So that 2-pronged call to action could be a great thing to do, promote the next event and ask for a one-on-one conversation. And then third, one strategy we got from a top financial advisor is sending personalized emails to prospects to seek one-on-one meetings. So if a prospect comes onto your call, you've never spoken with them before, what you want to do is you want to capitalize. You don't want to send them the generic recap email. Instead, you want to craft a personalized one built specifically for them and ask for a one-on-one meeting, of course, to be able to grow your business with that person. On top of these different tips that we're providing, you're also going to get in today's conversation a seminar checklist that you can use to be able to run better seminars. So you'll see here, we have our virtual seminar checklist. So these are going to be all the things you want to do on the day of your event to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So all the technology check and all those types of things. And then on top of that, how to follow up after the event is over, which are all the major things that we just covered on that last slide. I'll make sure that Mark has this to be able to distribute to you and the group after our event here today. So make sure to take a look out for this so you can master those virtual seminars. And by the way, if you're not a financial advisor, this will still apply. It's just general seminar rules, but we're just branding this particular piece to advisors. So it's still going to apply if you are another position. All right, so we've covered so far a few big items. We've covered how to run one-on-one meetings virtually through platforms like Zoom and WebEx and others. We talked about best practices of how to run virtual seminars, how to get people to those events. Now let's close out by giving you some next steps of how to review your checklist and how to put all these different ideas from today into practice. So you'll be getting a few items today, one being the virtual meeting agenda, which we showcased in part 1 of our presentation. You'll get this and you can edit this if you want to use it yourself or use these types of ideas to be able to create your own document on Word or PDF outside of the one we provide. On top of that, you also get the virtual seminar checklist. As we just showed, this is going to help you to run better group events, better team events for your prospects and for your clients. And then how are we going to put all of today's lessons into action? There are 3 steps which you can use to put today's lessons into play. Number 1 is you want to review your virtual agenda template. Make sure that you can use this or something like it in a one-on-one meeting with your prospects and clients. Number 2, you also want to review your virtual seminar checklist to make sure that you are understanding all the best practices for putting on a virtual seminar and how to follow up on group events. And then finally, number 3, of course, before you go live with a prospect or client, you do want to practice with your team before going on. So make sure that you are reviewing these checklists with your team members, make sure everyone's comfortable with Zoom or WebEx, whatever platform you're using, and you want to just ensure that before you go live. I can't emphasize that point enough. Practice is going to make you stronger. That's the only reason why today I can run a great virtual meeting. So with that, I want to thank you all for listening to today's session. I hope you're able to learn something of how to take your virtual meetings to the next level to create a premium experience for your prospects and clients. And this time, Mark, I'm happy to turn it back over to you and see if we have any questions.
So I don't see any questions in the chat just yet, but that gives me time to, Brendan, thank you so much for guaranteeing that everybody we want to reach with future webinars is going to be busy doing their own on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays going forward. So, no, only kidding. This is great stuff. We have tried to follow many of these best practices when we deliver things like this to you guys. It's good to know that we're not just blowing smoke, that we're doing it the way the industry that successful folks have been doing it all along. So much appreciated, and we'll definitely look out for those additional materials you mentioned and get those out to folks. So. All right, first question in the window, a demo of how to use Whiteboard and annotations in Zoom or other platforms would be helpful. And I know, Brendan, you did a little bit of that without a net in front of folks, but if you wouldn't mind, that we're in Zoom right now. So if you can show us one more time how that happens in Zoom, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. So let me just pull up, Mark, I'm just going to pull up one other presentation that's more Zoom specific so that people can just follow along, because it's actually hard to show people without being able to see some screenshots. So I'm just going to pull up one other presentation that I normally present on, and this is going to be able to show people how to be able to use the whiteboard very simply. All right. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about how, so this is going to be more specific to Zoom. So I do have presentations on Zoom and WebEx specifically. Today was made to be a cross-platform. But for Zoom, to be able to use the whiteboard, what you want to do is you want to first just click the screen sharing button, which is going to be your green screen share button at the bottom of Zoom. And now, if you are on Zoom now, you're watching me, you're not really going to be able to do this because I'm sharing my screen. So we can either pass these slides along afterwards, or you can take some screenshots as to how this works, but it's going to be pretty straightforward. So after I click the green screen share, I'm then going to get a pop-up that asks me what I want to share. So in this case, I could share my desktop, but since I want to share the whiteboard, it's going to be that whiteboard option there at the top middle of this screen. And once I click on this, it's then going to be able to give me a whiteboard. Now, when I am sharing my whiteboard, I'm going to see a toolbar just like the one that you can see on the screen right now. Now, your client or your prospect will not be able to see this toolbar. They're only going to see the white screen. That should be what you saw here today. Now, there are a few key buttons on this toolbar. I know it can be a little bit busy, but here are a few key buttons. Number one is the text. So if you do want to type out different text, like I was doing in that segment today, get familiar with where the text is. You can just use that to be able to draw, or excuse me, be able to type in different information. Also, the draw tool is really helpful. If you want to just simply draw on the whiteboard, that's going to be the tool to use. That's how I drew the graph from earlier. Also, the erase button, that's going to allow you to erase any images that you drew, and you can kind of just use that to drag over any of the different items. And then one really important button is the clear button, which is the trash can. So if you do want to start over, if you just want to start with a new demonstration, you need to click the clear button. That's going to start from scratch on the Zoom whiteboard. And it's going to allow you to kind of start over. So on Zoom whiteboard, this is going to be the key things to be able to do. First, you just want to share your screen, click on the whiteboard option, and then once you're in here, you want to use text, drawing, and the eraser to be able to create different demonstrations for your clients. And I did showcase one example today. I don't know if there's anything else people want to see, but I did show one brief example.
Actually, the second part of that question talked about annotations, which is a little different. So is there something you can show us there?
Sure. Yes. Okay. So with annotations, so this is slightly different. What we want to do is we want to share our screen again, just like we were doing today, and just like I was just sharing before. So you want to click the green screen share button. And then once we're sharing, so we want to share our desktop or a document, anything like that. you'd want to share that, then once you're doing it, you will then notice at the top of your screen, there's going to be a new toolbar that's for your Zoom toolbar. And the annotate button is just that little pencil that you're seeing highlighted here in orange. And then, so to be able to annotate on your screen, you're going to want to click on the annotate button right there. And that's also going to give you a toolbar just like the one you saw in the whiteboard. So it's the same exact function, except now instead of drawing on a whiteboard, now you're drawing on a document or you're drawing on a website. Anything that's on your screen, you can draw on. So it's the same type of thing. You can have text, you can be able to create different drawing, you can erase things. One key thing here is you definitely want to know how to clear it, because if you try to X out and just go to do something else without clearing it, all those different images you drew are going to stay on your screen, which can be extremely distracting if you're going to a new slide or you're going to a new website. So we want to hit clear when we're done with our annotations, and that's going to be able to take us out of that, and you can kind of start over. So let's see, I mean, we can kind of practice here on the spot. I'll just show you what I would do. So you can't really see the background here, but I just went into my screen share. I clicked annotate, and now that I've done that, I can type in to this document. So typing here, you should be able to see where I said type doc. I can now highlight different parts of this document. So I could say, check out number 1. I can make this a little smaller. So these are the different items that you could do. And sorry, this yellow is a little distracting. We could use red, that's a little better. But the idea here is to be able to kind of draw on documents like this. Again, and it's really more helpful, I think, for charts that you might be using as an investment professional. So this is how you can do it. And if I wanted to erase things, I would use the erase button and start to erase those items and then click clear. And then it's going to allow me to start from scratch. So that's just a brief demo, and I can go slower if that was too fast.
The speed was perfect. I think your earlier recommendation still stands. Before trying this out without a net in front of a client, get on there and practice and get the tools under your belt with some friends or colleagues first. So very, very helpful. Other questions for Brendan? Otherwise, we're going to have to let him go and go outside and get sunburned or something. So.
Yeah, it's a little warm here. I apologize if I was sweating a little during the presentation. I'm usually calm and collected, but the heat is extreme.
Yeah. So, all right. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in just yet. Brendan, I'm going to change the subject slightly and go back to the early. Oh, I got a question coming in. We'll get that one in just a second. But I wanted to get this one out. In the early days of Zoom meetings, there was a lot of chatter around security and people doing Zoom bombing, being able to get into Zoom meetings in particular. Do you have any suggestions there beyond making those making sure you require a password, even with clients? Other things we can do?
Sure, yeah, and you see me pulling up another document. So I do have another presentation that's more about all these different Zoom tricks, and I just want to go into the feature of how you can lock your Zoom room, which is a great thing to be able to add security to any meeting. So yes, as you mentioned, last year, Zoom had a lot of issues with people breaking into rooms, and that can be a real concern, especially if you're sharing sensitive client information. So on top of the password, which you can do, or the waiting room, which you also can do, and actually one of those two is mandatory now. So either they have to go to the waiting room or enter a password, which is good. But the other thing that you can do, and I'm going to fast forward here to step 5, is you can lock your room. So look at number 5 here at the bottom. That security badge is a little badge of security, I guess. And if you click on that, after your clients enter the room, it's going to lock the meeting room virtually so that no one else can enter. So that's a great way to be able to showcase to your client or prospect, we are in a secure meeting. I'm going to lock the room behind you just like we would in our conference room. And that's going to help you to be able to create more security. Now, I did get a question a number of months ago, if I lock my meeting room, can I unlock it? And the answer is yes. Just like in a virtual, or just like in person, if you want to unlock the door, you can unlock the meeting room just by clicking on the button again, and it's going to say room unlocked. So that's going to be the best feature for creating added security on top of the waiting room, which I think is the best option. Password's good, although it can create some delays in people getting in, especially if you have older clients or clients who aren't technically savvy. So I think the waiting room plus the security badge are the two best ways to create added security into Zoom specifically. And by the way, WebEx has the same type of feature.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I've been wondering for a while what that security button would do down there, but I've been afraid to click on it because I didn't want to kick everybody out. So, okay, new question. I see you're wearing earbuds. What's your best setup?
Sure. So I do have earbuds in. For me, like I do know some presenters that will present with AirPods or something like this, but for me, I like being hardwired because sometimes with these, if they run out of battery or if the connection gets looped to my phone instead of my computer, I can lose the person I'm speaking with. So I like being hardwired into the computer, and I actually present through the computer audio. Now, depending on what firm you're with or what the technology is like at that firm, computer audio may not be as good for you. I'm using a MacBook Pro that's pretty new. So if you have an older computer or an old system, it may be best practice to be able to log in on your phone audio and speak through that. And that can be a great thing for you, especially if you're using an older system. But I do use this because I like to be hardwired in so I don't miss anything that Mark is saying for this event. The other thing I have for my setup is I do use a ring light. And the ring light allows me to illuminate my face a little bit, even in broad daylight. It's a helpful thing to be able to create this bright light, and that's a great thing to use. It only costs about $18 or $19 on Amazon. I believe it's by this company called UBsize. I can send that afterwards if everyone wants to know it. Find me on LinkedIn. I can provide any information on ring lights. But I think those are the best things: is plugging in my headphones like this, making sure my camera's set up so that I have a decent background, and then making sure I have a ring light that illuminates my face. Those are the three things I do before every presentation.
Those are great tips, and actually, speaking as the audiovisual nerd from way back in high school, you've just hit the two things that are essential to any good presentation: make sure people can see and make sure people can hear. So the tools are different, but the principles are the same. Other questions, guys? We've got a couple more minutes here.
I would just add one more thing to the audio and video. I mean, as you can see on this screen in Zoom, and it's the same on WebEx, you can test your audio and microphone without even having a friend or a colleague with you, just by following number 1 on the screen. So test your audio and microphone by clicking on the little caret next to the microphone button. That's going to make sure that you can hear properly. It'll also give you a sense of how you sound through the computer. So that's really important. I do that before every presentation. And then number 2, to test your video, you want to click on the caret next to the video icon. That's going to allow you to see how you look before you go live. You can also upload, or use, I should say, a virtual background if you wanted to, and that's where you would find that in Zoom. So those are things you want to do before you join every Zoom call, and that's a best practice.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, we whenever we prep for these sorts of webinars, we actually use those things as our test to make sure that that our speakers are going to be able to deliver clearly and cleanly. So good to know that is a best practice. All right, we've got a bunch of shy Minnesotans here today, Brendan. No other questions are coming in. Maybe they all want to get outside, enjoy the sunshine here, and throw a few snowballs. I'm not sure.
Could be.
All right, we'll allow the painful silence to go on for just a few more seconds. But I'm getting close to calling it a day, guys. So again, if you've got a question, start typing away rapidly in chat. Otherwise, we are going to end this session and do a couple of last thank yous. Thank you again, Brendan. Thank you, Michael, and the team at John Hancock Investment Management. And thank you to all of you folks for giving up your lunch hour today and figuring out how to do a better job with these Zoom meetings and virtual meetings that we're all stuck doing, at least for a little while longer. So last call for questions, going once, twice. And that'll do it. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you at another webinar soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.